fam, how is everybody doing? I'm not going to listen. I always say I'm not going to take up too much of your time. And I usually lie, but I'm trying not to lie tonight. Listen, fam, we want everybody to get to bed at a decent hour. YouTube was giving me all types of struggles today. So, in case everything goes left or anything goes left, right, just know that YouTube was acting up. So, listen, fam, we want to talk a little bit, just a little bit about this. I don't know how best to describe it, but it's like these victory laps we're taking without victory. So we saw, and I don't have any types of animosity or anything. We saw Hakeem Jeffries is now leading the Democrats. Everybody was kind of behind. Let me turn this on. The Democrats were united. This was a decision made ahead of time. Hakeem Jeffries is now going to lead the party, right? And so, listen, I have no kind of ill will in that way, family. And please hit the subscribe and hit the like button while you're in there. I don't have any, but I think somebody's burying the story. So let me just put up something real quick, because the real story, because people are trying to make this a story about race. And I think the big thing is that this is a story about age. Just look at this for a second. So nobody is really. I saw a little bit about it on YouTube, and it's just like not let's not take this victory lap and try to make this be about, oh my gosh, this is just about the black. Yeah, that's great, but we all know that we have to push for that. Somebody being black doesn't mean what we think it means. We have to push for our needs to be represented regardless of who's in office, and that's no shot. That's no shot to Hakeem. I don't. That's no shot to him at all. But I want you to just look at that 52 years old. And I want you to look at the age of Nancy Pelosi and like the way in which we as a group of people have allowed ourselves to be led by a group of octogenarians. Right? And I don't mean no disrespect to anybody who's elderly, but listen, if you got a lot of years behind you and not as many in front of you, and it's time for other people to lead. And I do believe that there's some opportunity there. Somebody pointed this out on Twitter, which I thought was a great way to kind of contextualize it. Hakeem Jeffries is the first leader of the House Democrats ever born after the end of of World War II. Listen, I don't know whether everybody realizes or not. Let me get this keyboard out of my face. I don't know if everybody realizes or not, but that's kind of a big deal. Like Yvette, I believe that's actually a bigger deal than the race part. I think that's actually a bigger deal, because what we found in terms of racial representation is that our leaders are usually constrained by the race. So they're constrained in a way that usually puts them in a position. And I don't know about his background. So, I know y'all going to put some stuff in there, but they're constrained. Our leaders are more constrained than other people to not do anything specifically for us, because they're usually trying to prove something to the rest of America that they're not tied to ADOS, right? They have to prove. Listen, we're the only group where when you get in office, you have to prove that you are not a part of the group that you're a part of. Like it becomes, so we'll see some of that. So what I'm saying is that you have to look at this and contextualize this in a way to know, regardless of how you feel about him, our job will be to hold whoever accountable for our needs. We always talk about politics as an exchange, and that's true. It's an exchange. It is not a gift. It is not a gift. And that goes for anybody in terms of what comes to the House floor, in terms of what we need. And remember, Nancy Pelosi was the one who was like, we're not doing that reparations. And I'm kind of thankful for it, because HR 40, like I have said for a very, very long time, is not what we need. So I'm actually thankful for the way in which she didn't do some of the stuff, because that would have been quite the boondoggle, if you will. Now, just to give it some context for those who didn't know, Jeffries wins historic bid to lead House Dems after Pelosi Just want to give everybody some context. Just jump in here talking. House Democrats ushered in a new generation of leaders on Wednesday, with Representative Hakeem Jeffries elected to be the first Black American to head a major political party in Congress at a pivotal time, as long-serving Speaker Nancy Pelosi and her team step aside next year. Now that means I heard Clyburn was going to try to stay, and then he ranked off. As well he should. Like, it just comes a time. And we got to start getting people to understand that time comes a little sooner than 82, 83, 84, whatever the case may be. Y'all got to walk off. Now, showing rare party unity after their midterm election losses, the House Democrats moved seamlessly from one history-making leader to another, choosing the 52-year-old New Yorker who vowed to get things done in the new Congress even after Republicans won control of the chamber. The closed-door vote was unanimous by acclamation. And I just think we all have to, we all have to have a new understanding post-Obama that, listen, this just means that we got to get to work. There's nothing historic here for us. We just got stuff to do. That's what this means. We stand on their collective broad shoulders, Jeffrey said afterward of Pelosi and her term. Wednesday's internal Democratic caucus votes of Jeffries and the other top leaders came without challengers. Cheers broke out in the private meeting, where typically contested party elections unfolded instead like church service, a call and response affirming Democrats' confidence in their choices. Some in the room said. The trio led by Jeffries, who will become the Democratic minority leader in the new Congress, includes 59-year-old Representative Catherine Clark of Massachusetts and the Democratic whip, 43-year-old Representative Peter Aguilar of California as caucus chairman. Now, let me tell you one problem I do see with this. I see a bunch of Northeasterners, and that could become a problem, just in terms of just getting into the mud of it. You got Jeffries, I think we talking about New York. You got Clark of Massachusetts. You got Aguilar of California. Northeast and West Coast. There doesn't seem to be a lot of representation for other parts of the country in terms of, and I just hope that in terms of having a weather vane and having some kind of outlook about what the country wants, that is represented, because there are Democrats and other people with needs who support the party who are not in California, who are not in Massachusetts, who are not in New York. So I hope that there's an ear for that. And I want to say something else too. I think, one of the things that you have to get Congress to move and act, first of all, you have to have activism. So it can't just be, well, this is how we feel and this is what we want, and so this is what we're going to say and this is what it is and blah, 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 blah. I feel this way. Blah, 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 blah. No, it can't. We're not talking about that, right? It has to also be a situation in which, just bear with me for a second. It has to be a situation in which you have something to bring to the table, because you can fight all day long. If you don't have anything to bring to the table, you're just going to be hungry. You're just at the table with nothing to bring. I think this election, interestingly enough, gives us something to bring to the table. Black turnout in midterms was one of the low points for Democrats. This came out, I think this says today. Let me see. Yeah. So black turnout in the midterms was one of the low points for Democrats. Well, what does that mean, Yvette? Well, it means Democrats have work to do with our community. When a party has work to do to get you out, then it's time. It becomes time to do what the old people used to call, let's grease the palm. Right? If you got some stuff that you got to do to get us outside and get us to vote, that means that you have to give. That means that, hey, I can ask for some things, because it means that there's been some dissatisfaction. Right? There's been some dissatisfaction in this electorate, and that's what you do with all the other groups. You just go and give them stuff. So let's talk about a little bit about us not showing up. We won't get conclusive numbers for months, but the evidence so far raises the distinct possibility that the black share of the electorate sank to its lowest level since 2006. Now, let me tell you, that is sinking fast. That's a lot. Since 2006, yes, sir, yes, ma'am. It certainly did in states like Georgia and North Carolina, where authoritative data is already available. The relatively low turnout numbers aren't necessarily a surprise. After all, this was not supposed to be a good year for Democrats. Perhaps this is one of the things that went about as expected, with no reason to think it portends. I hate that word. Catastrophe for Democrats in the years ahead. Now, this is what people always try to say. Well, it don't have to mean nothing. It maybe it's just a fluke. It's whatever. No. It means it means that there is dissatisfaction in the midst. Dissatisfaction. You hear me? Black turnout falls in 3 southern states. The average black turnout rate in Georgia, Louisiana, and North Carolina was more than 25% lower than among white voters per state records. Now they got a little chart. It don't fit right, but what I'm trying to do, but we'll look at the little green chart. Gap between black and white turnout. Now let's see, this is green. Now you see, now I just want you to see something. This is these years up top, 08, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 22. Now you see how this is this gap. This is the gap between each of these years. Is the gap between black and white turnout. Now look at this. Look at 22 and look at that dark green line. Now I'm gonna scroll all the way to the bottom to let you see how big that thing is. When you get to the bottom, you can't even see the other greens no more. It's 26% lower for black voters. When you get to the bottom, you can't even see the thing. I have to pull it all the way. I have to pull it back a little bit just for you to see the other ones with it. 15%. This is 26% below. 15, 13, 12. Wait a minute. This chart is gap between black and white voter turnout. So we're talking 26% for black voters in 2022, as opposed to 15 in 2020 and 13 in 2018 and 13 in 2016 and 12% in 2014. Well, man, let me tell you, that's a lot. In all 3 states, the turnout rate among black voters was far lower than among white voters. In North Carolina, for example, 43% of black registered voters turned out, compared with 59% of white registered voters, roughly doubling the difference from 2018 and tripling the racial turnout gap from 2014. While similarly conclusive data is not available elsewhere so far, the turnout by county suggests that a relatively weak black turnout was a national phenomenon. Y'all read that again for me. A relatively weak black turnout was a national phenomenon. How many of y'all think that's part of the reason with these numbers and what they need for the black vote, even in the midst of all this voter suppression? How many of y'all think that's at least part of the reason we got House Leader Jeffries? Turnout lagged in cities with a large share of black voters. Philadelphia, voter turnout in 2020 as a percentage of turnout in 2018. Look at this. Gosh. Philadelphia and the rest of the state. So you look at Philadelphia and what you have in the rest of the state, right? Look at Michigan. Look at Detroit. Right? So how we turn out, the rest of the state is turning out more than we turn out. Well, to me that means you got to sweeten the pot. The rest of the state is more happy with the party than we are. To me, that's kind of a natural takeaway. Now, listen, I could be wrong, but to me, if I'm leading my people, and I am, I'm going to say, listen, you can look at these turnout numbers and just kind of tell that, hey, y'all got some work to do. There are obviously things we obviously don't feel, and it's true if you look at what you've been doing in terms of your agenda, that we have not been prioritized. We have only been prioritized to the extent to which we are helping Democrats. Now, I understand and I agree that voter suppression should be centralized. Joe Biden flew down here to Georgia, even though he knew he didn't have the votes, and flew back up. right? Um, but the only reason you even do that is because you know that as long as voter suppression is a thing, you won't have us to come out. But just giving me the rights that I'm supposed to have, yes, you're supposed to protect those rights, but that's not good enough. So if I have the right to vote and people try to restrict that right to vote, yes, you're my party, you are supposed to. And when I say my party, I mean the people who are black are mostly Democrats. So if we are undergirding this party, then it is our party in the sense that we kind of own it. Like, I don't think people understand that, but without ADOS and without the black vote, you don't really have a party. You have a group of people to get together and caucus. You don't have a party. So what should that mean for us? It should mean that you just don't come together and say, hey, what's important to this group is voter suppression. Yeah, that's important. Because that's a fundamental right that I thought we won long years ago. But what else? I mean, that becomes part of the question, part of the conversation. I put up a tweet early today that showed and you what Biden had promised black voters, especially black male voters. Everybody should go back to that. And I thought I put it in here and I didn't. But everybody should go back to that and use that as like part of a scorecard. Now, some of the stuff that was on that scorecard, like the Affordable Care Act, wasn't necessarily specific to us. So that becomes a problem if you include things in there that aren't really specific to us as a group. Like, yeah, everybody needs health care. If you're going to put something in that bill, though, that's specific to ADOS, right? Like the kind of health care we get or more health care and or free clinics or something, and our, like specific to us, that's one thing. I haven't seen reparations mentioned at all. Except for when Nancy Pelosi said, and Joe Biden said it's not going to happen. And just because it upsets some people doesn't mean that we can't provide a foundation about how to do it right versus wrong. See, we can't take a victory lap over Jeffries. We can't take a victory lap over Democrat getting elected. We can't. There are no victory laps in politics that you don't make happen. Let me say that one more time. There are no victory laps in politics that you don't make happen, that you don't force. This whole idea that you show up and you vote and you go home and that's it. You got to show up. There's a lot of stuff on that ballot. But the whole idea that you go do that and you go home, it's like kindergarten politics. Wait a minute. You ain't been to no town hall. Wait a minute. You don't know who's trying to run for what? What? Wait a minute. Well, if you found somebody that you like, did you campaign for that person? Wait a minute. The person that you campaigned for wasn't ready for the office they were going to try to take. And they had no fundamental. Did you inquire about that? Oh, wait a minute. No, I just thought he was a good guy. Or a good girl, lady. There are all kinds of steps. By the time there are all kinds of steps and there are all kinds of things that go into this political toolbox. And if you don't understand that, you're in trouble. And we're in trouble. So we go back here. Now let's go to the next paragraph. The decline looms especially large in Wisconsin, where the Democrat Mandela Barnes fell 26,718 votes short of victory, 1 percentage point short. Even as the Democratic margin in the city of Milwaukee fell by a nearly identical 27,612 votes compared with 2018. We saw that just a second ago. Mr. Barnes, who was born in Milwaukee and represented part of the city in the state assembly, did well enough outside Milwaukee to have had a very good chance to win the state. But the city did not represent the share of the state's electorate that it did 2 or 4 years ago. And let me tell you what happens on the national sometimes. Sometimes it's just a case that what happens nationally in terms of what Democrats are doing can tarnish whatever your message is locally. That happens too. Oh, let me go right here. Okay. The lower, let me see. hold on a second. Yep, there you go. The lower black share of the electorate was not quite decisive in North Carolina, where the Democrat Cherie Beasley probably needed black turnout to match or exceed white turnout share to win her Senate race. It probably wasn't decisive in Georgia, in the Georgia governor's race either, because Stacey Abrams was too far behind. Basically, it probably wasn't. But let me tell you something else. It's going to be interesting to see, and I haven't said much about it, and I won't. How Warnock does in Georgia too, because one of the messages I think that ADOS voters and black voters are sending is that we're kind of in this sort of conundrum. We're kind of in this odd space where even if you have a black candidate, and that's Warnock's situation in Georgia, you're constrained. When I say constrained, I mean you can't really, and I've discussed this before, I don't remember I discussed it on this, but it makes me think about it. So like you can't really discuss a lot of black stuff because if you discuss your people, you make white people mad. Like if you talk about it too much, you can discuss things in terms of justice, but whatever you say about justice and criminal, think about where we are with the fact that when you say criminal reform, it means black men. That goes to show you what kind of country you're in. But the fact that if he says that, he has to go do a bunch of other stuff that doesn't have anything to do with that. He has to go do a bunch of other stuff just to make up for the fact that he said Negro. And then his opponent, whoever the Republican is going to say, oh my God, he just said he's going to do something about the Negroes. Nobody else has to live like this. Like if an Italian American, if a Jewish American, if you say whatever you want to say about a Native American, what you're going to do for your group, everybody's just like, well, it kind of makes sense. That's what they do. I just want to know what else they're going to do for me. Like as a ADOS candidate, especially, you have to just become. You have to become like this sort of white person with melanin in order to like, okay, I don't know how many of y'all have seen the Warnock ads. They're great in terms of politics. They're great ads in terms of what works politically. Because he's just this nice guy. Well, hi, I'm Warnock. And, if Herschel was talking about running down the field, he wouldn't have a chance. But that's not what he's talking about. He's talking about politics. And I'm here for Georgia. I'm a nice Southern preacher. And I love everybody. Here comes a dog running up to him. I'm going to hug this dog. Now, that's great for politics. In terms of what it means for you, it means that even if he was going to do something, he can't talk about it. So, in terms of politics, we become a group that even the pastor from MLK's church, you got to understand we're at a moment where the pastor at MLK's church can't talk about black people. The man who was at the church, was over there at Ebenezer, where the man said we are owed a check, is now, in 2022, he can't talk about Negroes at all as he runs for Senate. I don't think that was King's dream. And that's what it's come to. And we say, well, we got to do what we got to do to just get elected. Well, if you have to do, and this is no slight to nobody, but if you have to do that to get elected, once you get elected, you can't do nothing. I mean, you can't do anything specifically racial. You can absolutely do something in terms of helping generalize poor people and sneak us in. But my gosh, like this country, it is amazing. This country has set it up to where even ADOS politicians can't do anything for ADOS. And I don't know Warnock's background, like in terms of like, I haven't went down to his grandmama and great grandmama who they were, and I haven't done none of that. I haven't done my who you or whatever, right? Because that was a question to always contextualize. It wasn't a question to otherize. But it's just something to see how people view that as somehow progress. That you have to convince, to a certain extent, you have to convince white people that you don't care about black people in order to get elected by white people. Warnock cannot mention Negroes, and he will not mention Negroes. And it seems that that's what it takes to get elected in a state that doesn't want to hear about Negroes. And if that's the case, I don't even know. Like, yeah, it benefits Democrats, but I don't know how much it benefits me. And that's a question everybody has to ask. I'm not saying this to tell anybody who to vote for or whatever. I'll do whatever I decide I need to do. But like, it's just odd. It's just quite the conundrum. And even with y'all remember when, I know I'm going off on a tangent a little bit, but do y'all remember when Obama got elected and everybody said, well, and I said, everybody's like, well, he gonna hook us up. He gonna hook us up in the second term. I feel that way all the time. Everybody's, oh, I said, listen, if he can't talk about you, if he can't even talk publicly about you and feel like he's gonna get the vote, if he can't talk about you, he can't do about you. Anybody who can't speak your name can't do nothing for you. Anybody who every time you say, what about me, says, hey, I need, you gonna make white people mad. Well, I need stuff. I'm over here. And people who didn't even know Obama said, well, he gonna hook us up. How do you know? You don't know that man. And he didn't promise us anything. And then when he didn't give us nothing, they said, well, you didn't ask for nothing. Well, I did, and you told me I couldn't ask because he couldn't talk. You told the man couldn't say nothing, so you said he couldn't say nothing. He can't do nothing. Be quiet. If you ask for something, you're going to get him in trouble. And then when we didn't ask for nothing, and he didn't give us nothing, everybody said, well, we should have asked for something. Well, I tried. You have to be able as a constituency to ask for what you need. Politics is an exchange. When somebody gives you their agenda and they say, this is what I'm going to do to get elected, don't think they got something hid behind their back. That's what they said. They got a whole thing up and you can hold them to whatever they said. But if they don't say it, it means that they ain't going to do it. Especially if it's us. Now, they might come through for somebody else and say, well, y'all can get this vote. But you are a captured vote to most of these people. That's what they view it as. They can't go nowhere. They can't go to the right wing. The right wing, they went all the way to the right. So what can they do? They got to stay here. You have to figure out a way to leverage that. So that's me off my soapbox. I'm going to leave that off my soapbox. Now they saying things might change. It might look different. There's been African-American voter turnout gives Democrats a confidence boost. We've been outside apparently. So, don't ask me. But something has to happen. Something has to give because they're changing all the rules of the game. It's not just about the agenda and what they don't mention. All the rules of the game have been changed. What the rules of the game been changed? Y'all remember when they told us everything will be fine. It wasn't just our mama and daddy and grandmama. They told us that, but everybody else told us that too. You just got to go to school. You get you a STEM degree. I heard STEM degree last week. Now what they saying? They changing the rules right up under you, and there's no way to secure you. So now they're saying they're rolling back degree requirements. Wait a minute, you told us to get a degree and said the problem was that we don't have a degree, and now you're saying and now we're rolling back degree requirements. Listen, and guess what they're saying, fam? You know what they're saying? They're saying rolling back degree requirements will help us. Let me read this to you. They're saying that will be a help to us. That's what they're saying. So let me make sure you understand. Years and years and years, they said they're opening up education. They said education is going to be the key to uplift for the Negro. You just got to go get a degree. Now, wait a minute. A lot of us didn't have the wealth to go get a degree. That's why most of us don't have a degree. That's why it's like 20% or less. And they didn't disaggregate it, so we don't know. So that's why we didn't have a degree. So instead of giving us the wealth to just, if we need to go get more degrees, they're saying, oh, we're getting rid of degrees. This is going to help the Negroes and stuff like that. So let me just show you a little bit of what they're saying, because they're just changing everything, fam. You can't have a situation where everything's in motion and moving and the stuff they promise you. Listen, when the contract changed, let me just say this real quick. Let me come out of here. This was a contract with America. Get a degree and have a good life. That didn't happen for us. So you have to say, wait a minute, you don't just change the contract and say, okay, no degree. You got to give us, especially these Negroes, we didn't have it to give in the first place. We only did it because you said so. Ain't Biden's degree stuff still stuck in court? And the answer was never that. The answer was not some class-based payoff student loans. The answer was for us, we should have the money to go to school. We should be on the top of the hierarchy. The answer to us has always been The lineage wealth gap. It has never been that, oh, we just have to have this paid off. Remember the data shows whites have an average of 10,000 and what a Negroes is like at 50,000 in debt for college. It's a wealth gap. It's not a gap in just like, oh, everybody's burdened by student loans. No, it's a wealth gap. And y'all burdened us with that knowing we didn't have it. And now you saying degrees don't matter no more. Everything's changing. And it's changing so quick that people can't keep up. There are two long-standing trends in the tech industry that have intensified over the last couple of years. There are more jobs than workers to fill them, and there's a need to diversify the workforce. As a result, more and more companies are rolling back degree requirements that were part of many job descriptions. That's given new opportunities to people like Stanley Omotoyole. He left Nigeria a couple years ago, giving up a degree program in laboratory, depending on where you're from, science, to join his dad in Seattle. Moving to the States, I'm thinking, oh, do I have to go through all of that again, he said. It felt impossible at first. Because, you know, a lot of people, when they come over here, they have to get a degree. Like, they can't, their degree from their school doesn't transfer. We call him O, knew he wanted to break into Seattle's tech industry, but he didn't have the time or money to go back to university. So he signed up for coding boot camp, which led to an internship at Microsoft, which led to an apprenticeship through an organization called Multiverse, which partners with tech companies to provide alternative career pathways for non-traditional candidates. Since January, I really want to pronounce this right, Omotoyole has been honing his software development skills at Box, a cloud storage company, and getting paid as he learns. That opportunity to both learn and be able to apply all of that at the same time, you know, even coming here, I did not imagine that this was an opportunity that I'll be able to have. Workers without college degrees bring all kinds of skills and potential and are key to a more inclusive tech industry, said Papia DeBroy, who leads research at the nonprofit Opportunity at Work. When an employer requires a bachelor's degree, they're screening out almost 70% of our black workforce, almost 80% of our Hispanic workforce, and they also screen out 75% of our rural workforce. So then we're going back, you don't have to have a degree. I don't know what the contract is no more, because how many years, I'm going to say this one more time, how many years have we been told that STEM was the way? You just got to major in STEM. Now we're told you don't have to have a degree. We don't have to have it no more. Well, can you get this dead away from me then? While many tech companies say they're loosening up on degree requirement, it's easier said than done. A Harvard Business School analysis of IT job postings from 2017 to 2021 found some of the biggest tech firms still demanded degrees for upwards of 70% of jobs. Joseph Fuller, a professor of management and co-author of the report, said it's likely because employers are looking for soft skills that are harder to test or prove on a resume. Employers use college degrees as a proxy for social skills. But there are a handful of companies that have made progress. One is IBM, where fewer than 1/3 of IT jobs required a degree. Let me tell you something. These people have you. And a lot of us are to blame, out here chasing our tail. So they spent years, those of you who even don't have a degree, how many times did somebody tell you that you were unsuccessful in life because you just didn't go to college? Oh, you would have been something if you had just went to college and you had went to school, right? Oh, well, if you went to school, if you didn't go to school, it was just, well, you should have went to college. That's why you're not successful. You just went to college. You didn't go to college. You didn't go. Blah, 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 blah. That was the thing. If you went to college, It was like, oh, you just should have majored in STEM. You should have majored in STEM. This was such a Negro talking point. You had the wrong major. Now people who do tech jobs are they're saying they don't have to have a degree. So it just lets you know that all that other stuff was just stupid. They're just moving the goalposts in such a way that when you do the stuff they tell you to do, you don't succeed. And even if you didn't get a chance to do the stuff that they told you to do, they still got to bark at you about not doing that. Well, you just should have went to college. So I told you to go to school. All these moving parts. And nobody will say, listen, hey, I didn't go to college. Not me. I'm talking about nobody as a person will say, well, I didn't go to college and y'all trashed me for 30 years. Nobody who is ADOS who went to school will say, listen, you can't change the contract like that. You can't change the contract and say college don't matter after making me put a bunch of money in college. Especially as an ADOS person, I don't have the money. I can't pay this off. I'm not white. Most white people pay off their college debt. I'm not them, so you burden me with this, and now Mr. O gets to come in and do what? You can't do it this way, and it's unfair to everybody. But it's especially burdensome to us when you change the contract. Please understand this. A country has a contract with its people. One of the contracts that America made that was already burdensome for ADOS because we don't have wealth was that you got to go to college. And then when a lot of us took on debt to do it, and a lot of us took on a bunch of shame for not doing it, they came back and said, well, we trying to change our mind. And nobody will come and say something has to be done about this contract and these degrees. And they don't need college. If you don't need college, how many of y'all have not been hired over the years because you didn't have a degree? And people say, well, the manager, well, if you had a degree, we would. And then the people, well, yeah. And then they change it. That's the contract with the country changing. The country's contract is changing with you. Listen, having a degree was supposed to catapult you in the middle class. We're supposed to have a whole class, a whole hierarchy of Negroes because they went to school. You're supposed to have a class. Listen, we always talk about how we don't have a class structure. How ADOS doesn't really have a class structure. We're mostly working class, but we talk about it all the time. We're supposed to have, though, a whole elite up here. Because that's what was promised. If you go to school, you walk right into the middle class. And if you are about your business, it's going to be upper middle class for you, baby. That's what we were told. And none of that worked. None of that worked. And then you're supposed to, if you're good, you're supposed to be able to start businesses and stuff and throw down a ladder, elect politicians. Oh, Yvette graduated, You got a bunch of people in Congress and we're doing stuff. We got business. That's what it was supposed to create. It doesn't do any of that. And everybody acts like they just going to keep walking and talking like nothing happened. It's like crows. Crows falling out the sky and we just walk around them. Well, they just falling. I guess maybe they sick or something. No, it ain't supposed to happen. What is this, the apocalypse? So, no, this is not. This was supposed to, listen, this group of people with degrees was supposed to create wealth in our community. That was the point. They told us these people go to school, they'll be able to pay off them loans, and they're going to be able to integrate themselves into America and create wealth as people with degrees. And that will be good for the community. So you will now have an elite because your ticket to elite, that's what they told us, the ticket to the elite is to go to school. Okay, now we can help our families. We can build all kind of business. We can do real good politics. We can do all of this because we got the ticket, baby. The ticket's education. The ticket didn't lead nowhere. It was a train to nowhere. And now they're saying you don't even need it no more. And nobody's saying nothing about nothing. Woo, America's a hell of a place. It really and truly is. That's all I can say about it. It's outrageous. It's just outrageous. It's outrageous what we allow to be done to us. Right? You're supposed to, oh no, you're going to catch up now. You're going to catch up. Don't you worry about nothing. That's quite something. That is quite something. Looks like a whole bunch of nothing to me. But that's something. So again, we took a victory lap because people told us this was going to be a victory. And it was a victory lap without a victory. We got a lot. And in our community, instead of just kind of sitting back and making the assessment and trying to figure out if it's going to work or not, we take a victory and we thank people. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you. We boss, I appreciate you for this opportunity. We're gonna go to school and do right. We didn't, but stick around to the end. You always got to stick around to the end and see if the thing that's promised to you as victory is going to really be truly victory. Don't get all excited about nobody. Well, we got a first black this. We got this, that. That's great. Wonderful. Just because something look like it could be. Listen, things have potential. Okay, let's see if this thing meets its potential. It absolutely has some potential to do something, but is this going to be a true victory? Because America, this country, if it's not good at nothing else, it is an expert at selling us pipe dreams. At selling us something is going to lead to be something that is good for us. Remember Nixon and black business. Oh, you don't want no welfare, do you? You want to do for you, you don't do for yourself. Black business. He used this idea of black business to take all the resources out of our community. Right? We didn't get nothing. It was just him running around talking about black business. Be very wary of things that are promised to you as solutions. If they don't have, there's a term for it. They have to have a proof of concept. You have to have a proof of concept. And there's no proof of concept with education. Remember, plugs and outlets. We got a plug and there's nothing to stick it into. So we got this promise of like, this is going to be your ticket to victory and you're going to be able to do all this for your community. And ain't nowhere to go. And we have a lot of that going. I just want to hit one more thing before we end, because I just want to hit a couple things today. You all remember the same thing happened with this what do you call it? This reparations, right? This Evanston, right? So victory laps without victories. This woman went all the way around. I know her name now, Robin Ruth Simmons. She went all the way around. She did all kind of podcasts. She was on TV doing all kind of interviews, doing a whole victory lap. This the first ever reparations. This is what it is, and the first ever. It was a victory lap without a victory. Not only did people have a problem with it because they realized what it wasn't. If you follow something, it's just kind of like when you start dating or something, or you around that age and people start telling you, listen, if you're gonna date somebody, you make sure you follow them home. And people be like, what you mean follow them home? No, follow them home. Go see their mama, their daddy, how their mom and daddy keep house. Do they clean up? Do they have good habits? You go and see how they are. Follow them home. So to follow a story home is to just stay on that story till the end. Not just follow this beginning. The American media is lazy. So they love to just kind of at the beginning, oh, this wonderful thing happened and she's a leader in the thing. Well, if you follow this, a reparations program in search of a funding source. Wait a minute. Y'all had her all around TV and all kinds of stuff talking about what she did and she don't have a funding source? What's going on here? Exactly. I just need to know. Okay, well let's just go on. We only have two more quick clips. So it's a reparations program. Hold on. So it's a reparations program with no money? Exactly how did that work? Evanston has historic reparations program. How is it historic and it's broke? Okay, now it has to find a funding source. See, this is why Evanston City Council members balked at a request. They said balked at a request from the city's reparations committee November 14th for $5 million in federal, I guess it means federal funds from the American Rescue Plan Act funds to support. Okay, I see. To support a reparations initiative in housing and economic development. So hold on a second. Let me come out of here for a second. Hold on a second. Let me come out of here for 1 second. First of all, it was not a reparations plan to start with. And listen, I'm Yvette Carnell at ADOSFoundation.org. I will help all of y'all who are trying to figure this out because y'all are struggling. But it was never a reparations plan. It was a home revitalization plan. And all of these articles that called it reparations were mistaken, or they were lying, or they were lazy, or both, or all of the above. It was a home revitalization plan, and they picked winners not based on systemic oppression. They picked winners from a bingo ball. They had a bingo. I ain't been to the bingo since I was like 7 years old. My mama used to take me to the bingo and have me dot the things. You know how y'all ever play bingo where you had this little, back in the day, you had a little sticky thing and you just dot the bingo things. I don't know why my mama had me in there. Was people in there drinking and smoking. I should have been there, but that's a whole nother thing. But it was a bingo, right? It was never reparations. It never should have been called reparations. And now y'all don't have a funding source. And they saying y'all are not going to get any money from this rescue thing. They balked, child. Balked. B-A-L-K-E-D. They balked. Let me put this back up. Y'all don't make fun of the bingo. The bingo was fun times. Oh, my mom used to get mad when I missed one. You done missed that. I got bingo. What damn? I didn't. Okay. So they're not getting none of this money. They saying y'all not going to get none of this money. Y'all not going to get none of this money. Okay? They asked for, now listen what they asked for. Go back to what they asked for, fam. $5 million. No. They said, they told Evanston, listen, you're not getting none of the monies. So now they got to go search to support the Reparation Initiative's housing and economic development, with some wondering if ARPA was the right vehicle. Well, why y'all don't follow this story too? Instead, council members agreed to hold a wider discussion of how to fund the city's reparations programs, whose source of funding, a local tax on cannabis sales, is performing worse than expected. Council members set December 12th to meet for discussion. Meanwhile, they approved another request from the committee directing staff to deposit real estate transfer tax revenue from the sale of properties of $1.5 million or more into the reparations fund. $1.5 million. Listen, this is a failure. Let's continue to this little part for me. In November 2019, the Evanston City Council established what is regarded as the country's first reparations program, committing the first $10 million of the city's 3% cannabis tax to fund local reparations and housing. See, this is the thing. The whole problem with this is that you don't call it reparations. You call it a home revitalization program. But you don't get attention if you call it that. Right? You don't get attention if you call it that. The tax, however, is producing less than expected. That's what we talk about. Reported Tashik Kher, assistant to the city manager, in a memo to council members for November 14th meeting. Dispensary shortfalls. They bet on weed. At the time of the passing of the resolution, it was anticipated that the city would have 3 cannabis dispensaries operating in the city. However, the state of Illinois delayed the distribution of the conditional adult use dispensing licenses, wrote Kher in a memo. So y'all don't have the money. Y'all don't have the money. That's just all that says. You don't have the money. You do not have the money. Now, I want to know one thing. What do I want to know? Who can guess what I want to know? I want to know why everybody got to take that victory lap when there was no victory. Hmm? That's all I want to know. How do you get to take a victory lap when there are no victories? That's all. Let me come out of this. And we don't do a good enough job. And I'll end it right here, but we don't do a good enough job. Whether it be just saying somebody's the first black to lead whatever, right? Whether it be local reparations, we don't do a good enough job of telling people you have to pump your brakes. You have to pump your brakes. We don't do a good enough job at telling people, hey, that's not a victory, right? Even if Warnock gets elected, there's he will be able to take a victory lap without us even asking, like, what does that mean for us? We do a lot of, the people who voted for him will go around and say, well, it's a victory for us because he won. No, I want people to start thinking about what is a victory lap for you, your family, your community. Not one person, not that, I'm mad at Herschel Walker and he don't have the capacity or whatever. Don't just think in terms of what you don't want. Don't just think in terms of, I don't want Herschel, I don't want Trump, or I don't want Bush back in it, or I didn't want Mitt Romney. Stop thinking just in terms of what you don't want and think in terms of what you do want and what would mean, like, when you want a stable family, you want a stable life, you have to have a stable community. You got to start thinking about what that looks like. And you can't think about that if you do politics prematurely. And you do politics prematurely if you claim victories where there are none. Right? So that's just what it is. So fam, give me a few minutes. If you want to call in, I will set up the phones and we can have the conversation. All right? Give me like a couple seconds and I'll be back. family, we are back. We are back. We are back. You know what else? Y'all know what else was real bad about me and the bingo? I ain't never had good vision. Like I had little I had little child. I had little bottle top glasses as a kid. I ain't never had no good vision. So it wasn't right to tell me I missed the bingo number B5 or whatever, child. So good and well, mama, I can't see. It don't make no sense. Now I'm stressed out with my little stamp. It don't make no sense to do. That's wrong. I'm gonna tell you, that's wrong. Tell you about yourself. Anyway, let me get to I'm gonna get a couple calls, fam. Let me go to 917. 917. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hey, evening, Yvette. This is Omar from the Bronx. What's happening, Captain?
Not much. What's going on with you?
First time caller, long time listener. I caught it at the tail end. I was basically recovering over COVID.
Oh.
So I was resting up and I had to look at the time and I was like, oh man, my sister's on. I was like, she's back and wow, let me go and check what's going on.
Oh, I appreciate
and
you.
I caught you while you... Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I said I appreciate you.
Oh, no doubt, no doubt. I'm from the Bronx, like I said, and I caught the part when you was talking about the trades and stuff, and how they did what they did with us as far as with high school and everything. Basically, just to make a long story short, I caught what you said, and I was like, wow, that's exactly what happened to me. Because when I was growing up in the city, 5 boroughs in New York, you could have picked a number of vocational high schools to attend. In the Bronx, everybody that's listening might be from the East Coast that knows, you had Alfred E. Smith, was a mechanics school. You had aviation out in Queens. You had Brooklyn Westinghouse, which, prepared you to be an elevator mechanic, so forth and so on. So there were a lot of choices that you had. Hello?
I'm here. Go ahead, fam.
Okay. There was a lot of choices that you had if any other person didn't want to go to college, because it wasn't for everybody.
Yeah, it ain't for everybody.
Back in those days, it was MCing, it was picking up a basketball, it was selling some crack, and next thing you know, those pathways that lead from all of those choices. So when you had people that was coming to, like if you was in 4th and 5th grade in the city, anybody that graduated 6th and 7th, went to 6th and 7th grade to the junior high school that you might be attending, they always came back to tell you what to expect, gave you a nice little report about, I got to get up a little earlier than I was working now because I got to study physics, because I'm intending to go to such and such to study mechanics, or I'm intending to go to aviation to study da-da-da-da. But then something funky happened.
What happened?
In the 90s. Something funky happened, in the late 80s and 90s. All of a sudden, you would go to these schools, and it was gone. The program was just gone. It was out of sight, out of mind. I went to Harry S. Truman in the Bronx. When I got to Harry S. Truman in the Bronx, what basically happened was, Harry S. Truman was in Clark City. Harry S. Truman looked like the most advanced educational park in the Bronx. If you look at all of the other schools, you could tell that they were made in the 20s and the 30s and 40s just by the architecture. Clark City was a lot more modern and developed, a lot more contemporary. However, what they started with that was a city-ad school where you went to school one week and then you went to work the next. So it was like just pushing you into like the work field and bringing in all of these, people to teach you to do retail, business administration and stuff like that. And a lot of that stuff actually, if you wanted to do that, it was almost like they were substituting you not going into vocational. And if you didn't want to go to college after school, but you wanted to get into, say, retail or fast track in the business of and so on, they was making it like that. But everybody was saying, well, damn, why couldn't y'all just keep add that program and then keep our trades as well? Because, even everybody else didn't even want to go to retail or go into business like that, because a lot of us seen those blue-collar workers when we were growing up, maintenance men and stuff in the building, coming into your residence and fixing stuff, leaving it nice and neat after they left, and when they left, everything was fixed, this, that, and the third. And, my grandmother told me, you can make some good money growing up if you become an electrician or more. You can make a good money if you become a plumber. Well, I'm an HVAC tech, long story short. However, I was ladled with the debt that was hanging over my head after going to the 2-year school. Praise God for everything. Hopefully something happens with the Biden thing that, they talking about cancer and stuff like that. But it's funny when you brought that up. And I just joined the viewing for your show, and I'm like, wow, man. I was like, yeah, because I got a nonprofit organization up here, and we preach 4 fundamentals: arts and crafts, education, sports and exercise, and introductory to trades. And we really feel that, hey, listen, everybody's not going to be an MC. Everybody's not going to be a basketball player. Everybody's not going to be this and the third. If an event we see a kid that does shine in any of those categories, okay, we'll do what we got to do and put what we got to put behind them to get them fast-tracked in the way. However, it's all-inclusive, and everybody can partake, and it's all about getting that fabric back that we used to have with some inclusive. I kind of ran on a little long, sis. I love you.
No,
You're
you
best. I'm looking to join a chapter in the Bronx.
Oh,
If there is one, let me know. I'll email you, or I'm looking to start one.
Oh, we coming, and don't. No, we
I
coming.
love my tribe,
We
and I'm
coming.
with you to the end.
No, we coming. We just working on a few little final kinks. But we coming. So I'll announce everything here. I'll announce how to join, all of that stuff. I'll announce it here and on Patreon, so everybody will know. But we coming, fam. We ain't got no choice.
I appreciate you.
I appreciate you, fam. You have a good one, and continue to recover. Get some rest.
You got it.
All right, now. I'm going now to 937. 937, what's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
This is Yara Ali. I'm calling out of Dayton, Ohio.
Hey, what's going on?
I'm one of your day ones. You know this, right?
What? Hey, what's up then? What's up, day one? All y'all be calling yourselves day one. What's the true day one? No, I'm just playing.
When you was with the Army, when y'all had the carpet behind y'all.
That was an
But
Indian.
anyway.
that was a jump on it and fly away kind of carpet, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. Yes, it was.
Yeah, it was nice. I think
But
I
anyway.
got that carpet somewhere when he was on vacation. Like he traveled or something like that. But I remember, fam.
Yeah, but if you go back through your archives, when y'all first launched the ADOS movement, and if you check my DM, what I DM'd you, and I was against the reparations movement because it lacked one key element: liberation. And as long as we remain under this system, the only thing we'll get is more deprivation and nothing more than a program.
Where you going though? What system you going to?
Okay, I'm glad you asked that question, because it's a great question. Who is the Union Army fighting against in the South?
The Confederacy? Was this a trick question?
No, you're right. The Confederate were the Dixiecrats. Am I correct?
Continue.
In the North, the freedmen and the Gentiles in the North came together, and they won a great battle at Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. Although they won a great battle, they lost the war. When Abraham Lincoln was assassinated, they sacked your republic and ushered us into a democracy. You can't find that word in the Declaration of Independence, nor in the Constitution, nor in the Bill of Rights. In 1870s, I believe, they filed for bankruptcy under the Republic. And in 1933, they officially bankrupted the Republic. we going to enter the Great Reset, going into the old system? Or will we return to the Republic where we belong? The media taught us for 4 years to hate Donald J. Trump without cause. When you go back down through the histories, especially back to the 60s, Donald J. Trump was the only president to address us by name, by title, given us by our oppressors.
All right.
It's hard for me to convey this message to my people, but I teach wherever I go. What do the elite know that you don't know is the question. And all you have to do is look at the model of the state of Palestine. And the same rulers over Palestine are the same rulers over this government.
Well, all right, fam. I appreciate you calling in. I'm gonna have to try to get to another caller. But I appreciate you. I appreciate the history lesson. You have a good one. All right, I'm going to 269. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
This is Haywood Haynes. I'm calling out of Michigan.
Hey, what's going on?
Nothing much. Just wanted to say first that I enjoy your show. I think,
Thank you.
when we talk about a lot of these things, especially when we're talking about economic empowerment, one of the things that's always disconcerting to me is that we're not aware of the tier system that exists. I know a lot of people may or may not have touched on it, but even if they do, they're not candid about it. And the tier system I think that exists is one in which, you have employees, you have the employer or entrepreneur, and then you have what's called the captains of industry.
Okay.
And see, the problem is that we're not captains of industry. So how do you become a captain of industry? You have to understand what industry runs the world, and that's energy. And we don't have a profound insight on what that industry is all about. And so how do you get to that? One of the classes that we looked over, because we're not interested in it in school, because they always teach us these things when we're not interested in it, and that is chemistry. So when we look at chemistry, we're not just talking about beakers and liquids, right? We're talking about the fact that these are also metals, right? And this is the point that I'm getting to.
Okay.
When we understand that carbon, which is organic chemistry, is a study of carbon, this is where you get all your energy from. When you're talking about hydrocarbons, when you're talking about electricity, when you're talking about plastics, if you take a look at silicon, when you mix it with oxygen, you get sand. What do you make sand out of? Glass, microchips. Okay, so when you walk on that beach, right, and you twiddling your little toes in the sand walking with your girlfriend, you forget to realize that this is the energy source that they're using to take you or catapult you into the next century. But it's not hidden from us, because one of the things that we suffer from is this idea that, they're hiding things from us. If they're hiding something from us, they're hiding it in plain sight. Because you must remember, when we're in school, we are suffering from what's called compartmentalized thought parading around as a holistic worldview. They teach us chapters 1, 2, 3, skip to 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and they throw you to the next grade. It's not like they're not hiding it from you in this book. We're just not reading the entire book. There should be a White History Month, because when you know what these blockos is really doing, then you come one step closer to understanding that it is not hidden from you, right? And so that's my thing. I think that that's profound for us to know, because we have to understand that if we're going to become leaders for the next, especially for our children to have a future, we must become captains of industry, not employees. Not because if you don't have electricity, running water, you don't have a business. That's what I keep telling people, and that's what we're going. So when we talk about these people controlling the direction where humanity is going, it all has to go back to whether or not they're going to transform it through the use of energy. And if we're not participating in that, then of course we're going to be sitting up here at the mercy, blowing in whatever wind that comes out of the Republican or so-called Democratic Party forever. And I like to say this last but not least, because I don't want to run off, but I think this is extremely important. When we keep talking about these parties, we must understand that black people voted Republican all up until World War I, right? Just like the brother just mentioned, Lincoln was the first Republican president. We must know that. So this was always
the
concerning
party
to me when
switched,
you
right?
had these pundits talk. Excuse me, were you saying
But you
something?
know the
sister?
party's kind of like they went through a kind of a switch. I did a whole show about like, but go on. I'm sorry. I'll let you finish up.
Oh yeah, they went through an ideological switch. Exactly. And so that's what we have to understand is that what's so amazing to know is that when the first parties came up, you had the Federalists. George Washington was a Federalist. We don't understand it. Alexander Hamilton was a Federalist, right? So the Constitution was actually a document that was for big government. It was for big government. It was exactly against the philosophical tenets of the modern Republican Party, which is for limited government. So if you got to think about this is crazy to think about. If the Republicans really championed limited government, they would have been for the Articles of Confederation, not the Constitution. They didn't ratify the Constitution until 1791, right, along with actually the Central World Bank being a staple of that too as well. But then the Federalist Party disappeared. Then you had what was called the Jeffersonian Republicans, which ended up becoming the Democratic Republicans. They took the Republican off of that and then just became the Democrats. And you had the Whig Party. Then the Whig Party split off in 1854 and then became the new Republican Party. Okay? Which was formed, like we said, in 1854. So with that being said, we have to understand it's all games. Because the reality of it is they can switch. They give us this idea like, oh, it's a Democratic Republic now. Black people need to start voting Republican because, the Democrats have never done nothing for them. And then like you just ascertained throughout your show and provided ample evidence is that they just switch ideological stances. So why do we keep being involved in these games? You know why? Because we're not captains of industry. While we keep playing this tug of war of how we get upward mobility and then it's trickle-down philosophy, which is really a derivative of Reaganomics where we wait for something from the top to come down to the bottom, they become captains of industry. Then we ooh and ah as black people. Oh, look what they came up with. The internet. No, this is all, and I like to say this has all been just manipulating our power and our technology called the sun. Microwaves is where you get your cell phone from. Radio waves is where you get your radio. Radar, that's where you get, they are able to communicate underwater. They're manipulating our central power source with this technology, and we're sitting up here oohing and ahhing. All we got to do is get back to what makes us us. And that is the understanding that this is, naturally speaking, we are connected with this planet. So when we understand that, when we go back to understanding nature, and their whole system is really just more or less a reverse engineering of nature, then we come that much closer to becoming captains of industry. But I didn't want to be long-winded and keep you long. I love your show.
Love you. I love you, fam. I love you.
My 2 cents
You got some interesting ideas, but I love you. I love you regardless. You have a nice night, fam. All right, I'm going to 404. 404, what's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Let's see what all this education
You don't know how to be a captain of industry. You trying to clown, my man.
I
Carbon.
was listening to you. The day one's having a rough night. Now, I know who I am. I know I've been around here for a minute.
He said the day one's having a rough night.
So the thing is, I was thinking about you today when I went to go vote, and I'm glad I'm watching your show because it explains why all these people keep blowing up my phone trying to get me out to go vote. Every time I block it on my text message, they keep coming right back. And I'm like, why do they keep doing this? My mother's house is in the hood, which is where I'm at right now. So
Okay.
I done had folks come over here like 2 or 3 times, up and down Glenwood, Candler Road. They got the voting polls over here. They doubled up. So I had to run up to the library up here out west to go vote, right?
Uh-huh.
On my way to somewhere else. That was the only way I can get in and out. And so when you showed that graphic up there, that 22 or 26% below the white, whatever that is, that explains everything on the heels of us sending Warnock and Ossoff up to the White House, up to the Capitol, right? So what does that say? What does that really say? It really speaks to black life or Adolf's life. That's what it really speaks to. And the point you was making about somebody having King's pulpit, but really can't talk to his people or even talk about his people. And I thought about that term that we talked about when we was talking about real estate. And I play around with real estate, right? So I realized that we are now conversation contagions. You know that term you call wealth contagion?
Not just a wealth contagion, a conversation contagion now. You can't even talk about us? Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, really. If it get to the point to where the preacher talk about, I ain't going to ask the president for nothing. What's his name? Sharpton?
Mm-hmm.
Al Sharpton. One of them was saying,
no, it was Sharpton. It was Sharpton.
I got Obama. Obama, we ain't gonna ask him for nothing. What pulpit tells his congregation don't ask for anything?
Well, hold on, fam. You said what pulpit tell his congregation not to ask for anything? First of all, Sharpton has always been a preacher without a church. Second of all, if you are led by your ambitions and not your Bible, you're gonna have some problems if you're a pastor. So go ahead, fam. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So when I went to college, all that whole term you described, that whole concept you talked about with education, this, that, and the third, and us having something to plug into, I just found that big word, infrastructure. Infrastructure. It worked the same way plug into. We don't have infrastructure because we don't have the money.
Mm-hmm. We
follow this thing home, and we see that this ain't where the money resides. Straight up. And, I'm sitting here listening at a Warnock or, what's her name, Kamala, this, that, and the third. I don't think that they see themselves. I really don't. I don't want to talk about nobody, but sometimes I don't think they know what they look like. When they're trying to pass certain types of legislation for certain demographics, they don't really know who they're even speaking to. It's not about us supporting a Herschel Walker. And I'm gonna just tell you, by the way, I got kind of petty. They got so petty with me in terms of harassing me on the phone about go vote, popping up at my mother's house, at granddad's house, all the houses, knocking on folks' doors, talking about they didn't know they had been out. Got a sign next door, I'm pointing to it, said I'm gonna call the police on these old ladies. It's crazy. This is what they doing. No,
they was out here today. They was at my house. I'm like, what is that?
That's what they doing out here inside the camp. I'm just telling you. I didn't see no poor white beggars out in the street today. I was looking for them. I ain't see none of them out. I was thinking about the Buffalo shooter. I didn't see none of them. But my point is, that ain't nothing but that victory lap ain't nothing but a coping mechanism. It's something disguised as a coping mechanism, another form of hope money, a bad pulpit preacher. And it's hard. You're having a hard time as Adolf. If the most popular prosperity preacher out there telling y'all, you know what, just put my books up, things ain't going right now. When he say that, you're in trouble. But I'm a day one. I saw some other day ones and twos having some problems, and I felt like, man, this education thing.
We having some struggles today. We having a little bit of struggle.
The gap in black folks. What you gonna say now?
I said we having a little bit of struggle today with the day ones and day twos. We having a little bit of a struggle. It's all right.
I just feel compelled to call you. When I see that, I was like, man, I better pick up the phone or something. But that's what's going on. You're a conversation contagion. We're looking like whole fools out here. And if we ain't at the table, we own the table, about to be a whole food, healthy for somebody else to eat in a capitalist society. But I'm glad I saw your show today with that 26%. That graphic that you showed really breaks it down.
Yeah, they need us outside.
Man, that's crazy.
That doormat. Fam, that doormat moves around. So, like, I always say we're the doormat if people want to come here. Like, they just walk over us and go in. Well, people pick up that doormat and take it to the voting booth, take it up. That doormat is good for, it's like a magic doormat. The doormat don't ever go in the house. It ain't going to ever become a person. You just can't be the doormat. And that's just what it is.
Yeah, child, worse than that. I told you I was a day one. Y'all used to say we was the shoes.
We are. We everything that you can, listen, we magic. So, right, see, they don't want the shoes no more, though. The shoes has been thrown away. The shoes was used to build a country. Let me put these shoes on and build America. All right, now where I throw these shoes away? Anybody got a trash can? So now I'm gonna just make y'all the doormat, right? I don't need your shoes. I got other shoes too. I got other shoes I like better than your shoes. We use your shoes to build a country, build a wealth, but like y'all shoes wanna think you wanna be somebody, right? We wanna throw these shoes away, but we still wanna use y'all for stuff. So it's just like we get to be doormat, shoes, we get to be everything, child, except for whole human beings with whole justice claims.
They wearing us out. I remember the Evanston article. I think you did a show. You were told did a show on that Evanston article a while back.
Mm-hmm.
And to follow it home to see how it turned out, we really not surprised.
No, we're not surprised. I've done a few on them ever since. I'm not surprised. It was always gonna end this way. Like, I don't know, this woman, they done dressed this woman up and had her on all kind of morning shows. Done had her in all kind of newspapers. For what, child? For a small home revitalization project? It's
you know what I
historic.
learned, though? I did learn a lot about voting down ballot and getting out the game and just focusing on improving yourself and getting some political education and really standing on your square with this.
There you go.
And maintaining the right political mindset. You know, you got to be, true to it and be honest with yourself about some things. And we really have to do our homework and hold people accountable as much as we are held accountable out here. I really enjoyed that show you and Tone did on Jerry Jones. It's so true. It's so true. I'm not a hater of him or anything like that, but his wealth was everything that he was fighting for. And it really is easy to be gracious when I knocked your daddy off and got his son calling me daddy. It's easy to be gracious if I'm doing that. Easy.
And if you supported the status quo, that's what you did. If you were not one of the ones out there marching with Negroes, you was out there arm in arm with King, giving money to the movement. If you were not there, that's what you were doing. You were supporting the status quo. And he wasn't just doing that. Dude, you were out there on the other side. You can't tell me I just came to see. Your coach told you, sit your butt home. You knew exactly what you were doing. And it worked. That's the worst part. You knew what you were doing, even as, because he wasn't just a kid, like I pointed out. He was a kid of a grocery store owner, right? So he talked to his daddy about business. He knew exactly what he was doing, and it worked. He protected his status. He protected his hierarchy. He protected his access to wealth, and he got y'all out there running around in little tights up and down the field, getting knocked around. I remember one time the first I met the wife of the first time I ever met a wife of an NFL player, and she said he has the body of like an elderly man. She said there are days he can't make it up and down the steps. And so that's the stuff that you don't see. You just see, he got this kind of contract. He got this, that, and that. You don't see the CTE. You don't see the stuff he forgets. You don't see the long, hot baths or whatever. That's what he wants, though. Listen, get out there and run your ox self up and down the field, beast of burden or whatever in your tights. And I'm going to be back here in the back office sipping lemonade and smoking. And I don't have a problem telling you, hey, do this with your money. You a good boy. You a good man. And I don't have any problem, because if you work for me, I want to keep you happy anyway. I have an interest in keeping you. It used to be a time, and some coaches still they just yell at you. They operate out of fear. But there's another way to operate that's probably more effective. And it's the way Jerry Jones does it. He just put his arm around you, and you his boy, right? And you the son I never had, and I'm gonna show you something. And I'm saying he really shows you things. But guess what? He's still gonna be a multi-billionaire, and you're gonna be a millionaire with a lot of health problems, and maybe you're gonna start forgetting a lot of stuff, and stuff gonna go downhill for you. But you will always be, like I said, he has ensured that you will always be the player and never the owner, and that's why he was standing outside, and he got what he wanted.
That's what you said. That's exactly what you said. Philanthropy is easy after all that pimping. That whole Emmett Till thing had to happen in his lifetime, not too far from him. Emmett Till in that situation had to happen in his lifetime, not too far from him. If he's from Arkansas, I want to say that took place in Mississippi. He had to have seen that. And for him to say he didn't know anything or wasn't aware of what was going on, disingenuous. But who cares? He knows who he's talking to. He knows. And it's easy to be a philanthropist after all of that. So
yeah, it's easy. Like if I done made more money than, I don't care. I can get a little baby shoes or whatever. I'll find whatever kind of philanthropy. But I'm happy. When you're happy with that kind of money, you don't care. You're going to find people with cleft chins and stuff.
House money. Yeah.
Somebody said Deion Sanders just lost 2 toes. Child.
You're right. I mean, when you're playing with house money, it's easy to be a philanthropist, man. Real easy. But I just wanted to pop in and say that.
Appreciate you. I appreciate you, fam.
I saw the day ones was going in. I felt like I need to call up.
Well, it was a nice palate cleanser for everybody. We was like, what's going on with the what and the what? So all right, I appreciate you.
Yeah, man. Yeah. All right, now.
You have a good one. All right, now.
You have a good one, too.
All right, I'm only going to probably like one more caller. 267. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind? Oh.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I was calling because, well, I just wanted to say, I'm one of the day ones, and I just wanted to bring some sanity back to things had gone way off the rails, and we needed to just get back on topic. But I wanted to share a short story with you because I know, we've been going for a while, and I just kind of wanted to get your input. So I was, mentoring a young person who was going to be voting for the first time, and so I was showing them, and I was telling them to share this information with their friends about how to vote and how to look at candidates and, how to start at the local level to see what they're going to do for you locally. So in the midst while I was doing that, the Get Your Booty to the Poll campaign came out, and then no voting, no bucking. So the young people got very disgusted and discouraged and was like, they didn't target anything at us politically. They just thought they would put some splash and candy out there, and they thought that would excite them into voting. And they were just all very upset. Like, I know for a fact some of the young people didn't vote. Some of them protest voted. Like, they just went and voted and wrote in candidates like SpongeBob or something like that. And then they just voted doing, like, whatever the ballot initiatives, the local stuff about asking for money for local things. And I just was wondering your thoughts on something like that. It really just bothered me. I'm trying to think if there's something I can do, maybe seeing a lawyer about this. I don't even know your thoughts.
Even in terms of like the first stuff you talked about. Like, listen, people do what you accept. If you go out on a date and your date just starts burping, blah, blah, and it's like, oh, it's natural. That's just the way it is or whatever. And you get a whiff or something. And it's like they must whatever. And like, and you go on a second date, like, okay, like that's your level, that's your standard, right? And I think like if that thing comes out and there is no revulsion, right? Like, oh my God, like you don't see that for anybody, but it's just like no fucking instead of like a real policy. So it's just like you set the level, you set the bar, and like we're just setting a bar that's just really, really low. Like it's whether it's strippers on pole or it's doing an electric slide or it's twerking, whatever. It's just like a really low bar. And I think in terms as a collective, we have to just whoever does it, we have to just be revolted and say like, this is not how you reach us. This is not how you talk to us. And this is not how you communicate an agenda to us. We have a reparations platform. We have a black agenda. This is not how you converse with us. You don't converse with us through hip hop or through our culture or through R&B culture or through soul. Like you can have that. We expect you to be knowledgeable of that. And you can communicate what you will do in terms of our agenda through that. But there has to be, until there's like a collective kind of revulsion, I don't think it goes anywhere. Like if some people are like, oh, that's kind of cute, I kind of like it.
What you're saying,
like say what?
Like what you're saying is enough of us aren't showing collective outrage about this.
Yeah, just like this is like, or it just shows itself as ineffective. Now I think one of the things you can say is that like it might have shown itself. We're looking at the voter data. They might say that like that didn't work. Like that certainly didn't get ADOS out in any numbers. If the article I just put up a little while ago is actually true, that didn't work. So they may do their own assessment and say, maybe we go in a different direction next time. And it's unfortunate, but I don't believe in just staying home. I think sometimes you have to just vote for what you vote for. And we don't know how many of those people did or did not. Like I don't know how they counted, but I think, in your communities, there's always somebody to vote for or something to vote for or against. But I think they may have to come back and retool because the little man with the fingernails and the rapper lady didn't work. Right? So they may have to come back. Who was that? Trina? Who was that? So they might have to come back to the drawing board. We shall see.
Trina, I think. It's just that it made them, like I'm trying to do stuff with young people and things. I'm the one, I called a couple times. I have some health issues, so I'm just not going to be able to be active probably as much as I wanted to. So I'm trying to just work with youth and trying to show them, like I said, how to research a candidate, how to, start at the local level and work your way up to the federal level so that they can, have a political foundation. And, of course, I've introduced them to all of you and home stuff, in
good.
small increments. Because, they're young. So
Yeah, they're young. They can't take too much in one time.
What
but
their
I mean,
appetite so they can get used to it.
But I mean, even young people, you have to develop some resiliency. Like, I don't know what you are in this life if you're not kind of resilient, right? Like, it just requires that. So even in this life, you have to kind of develop some resiliency. So, I mean, they'll get it and they'll work through it. And they just have to know that it's just necessary, right? They just have to know that this is necessary. Like, see, are you revolted by it? Well, guess what? That means you have to work to change it. Oh, you have an issue with it? Okay, me too. You younger than me. What it's gonna be, right? So, I think that's good. Like, if you have a problem with it, okay, express that. Okay, let's talk about me. What do you think about changing that? What do you think that looks like? It's good to have a problem because that tests your problem solving skills. So
yeah, they wanted to definitely do something. So I was supposed to be trying to research some things to see what they could do within the legal options, the ADL. I don't know, different things.
I don't think that's it. I don't think you can do like a lot in terms of the way this political culture thing is happening. I think you change the political culture like one by one. I think whether it be mentoring what you're doing, whether it be talking to people, whether it's having those conversations, I think this is the work of it. It's kind of like advocacy work in your orbit, however big your orbit is. I think that's how you change what you do. And I think that's why people don't like to do it, because that is not the sexy work. Like, right, like, people, everybody wants to like, oh, I would like to be on YouTube and talk or whatever too. I would like to be on TV and talk or whatever. Yeah, but that's only part of the work. You know how many grocery store conversations I have, right?
Yeah.
People, I saw this and I want to talk.
Maybe one of these kids one day, who knows? Maybe
I talk to kids all the time who I saw you, my daddy watch you, my mama watch you, right? And so you have that conversation. And you have to have that conversation. Like, you shouldn't be in this advocacy arena if you're not going to have that conversation with somebody. I thought somebody grocery store one day for an hour and a half. Like, I ain't had no ice cream, so it was fine. So it's just like you have to be willing to kind of have those one-on-ones. It can't just be like, I'm just going to have a conversation on YouTube or whatever, or wherever I am or whatever. And that's the stuff that nobody sees, but that's the stuff that's got to happen. It can't just be talking at people. It has to be talking to people about, what they think and what they feel, and kind of getting to the bottom of why they have the beliefs that they have. Because you don't know why somebody believes what they believe. You can't change nobody's mind if you don't know, why do you believe this way? what is motivating this belief that you have? You got to get to the bottom of it. And that's a lot. That's almost like getting to the bottom of somebody's political belief is almost like being somebody's therapist. Like, because you got to get, well, what happened? Well, I don't like so and so. Well, why? Why? So you get to and that's the stuff that nobody sees. The hard work is the stuff that nobody ever sees, and that's the stuff that you just got to do. So I think you're doing good work as is. I don't think you really have to change anything, and I think tell the kids, just keep living, because y'all is either gonna get better or get worse, but you can't stop. That's all.
Okay. Yep, I'll make sure I talk to them after the first, probably not now. Let them have their holiday stuff. And we'll meet up in January. Yep.
All right. Appreciate you, fam.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Oh, Ed in the chat. You're so crazy. Oh, my goodness. Ooh, I'm going to end it right there, fam. It's a lot. So, we might get another day one. We keep going with the call, so I'm sorry, Carl, if I canceled you. Hey, listen, it is what it is. Anyway, fam, I want to thank everybody who called in. No matter what you said when you called in, we enjoyed it and we had fun and we laughed together. Some of the stuff is, some of the stuff, but we still fam, and we love everybody. So we love the fam. Even if we don't agree sometimes, we don't quite understand what you're saying or trying to communicate, we love you all the same. You're a part of the community. We're going to work through it. We're going to be all right. So anyway, fam, please keep it easy breezy. If you're on Patreon, I will see you tomorrow night. If you're not on Patreon, I will see you in one week. 1 week. So if y'all liked the little short I put up yesterday from Patreon, let me know. And I'll keep doing it. So, you know, a little Patreon short video to share, a little nugget or whatever. I call them little Patreon nuggets. So just let me know whether that was something that was okay. I think it was like 10, 11 minutes long. Anyway, fam, please hit the like button. Hit that like button for me. Please hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe to the channel. All right. I'll see you next time, fam.